I found 6 holes in my daughter's bedroom wall last night. Tiny, perfectly drilled, all aimed at her bed. And when I pressed my eye against one of them at 3 a.m., I saw something looking back. Not a camera, an eye. Before you ask why I didn't call the police, before you say you would have done it differently, you need to understand something. When a billionaire saves you from dying on the street, when he gives your 4-year-old daughter a bed and food and safety, you don't question the holes in the walls. You don't ask about the locked basement. You just say thank you. And by the time I realized Alex Rutherford Thompson wasn't my savior, I'd already signed away everything. This is Helen's story, and it could be yours.
8 months before those holes, Helen Vance was invisible. 26 years old, sleeping under Interstate 94 in Detroit with her daughter, Iris. But she wasn't always homeless. 2 years earlier, Helen was a nursing student at Wayne State, married to Daniel Vance, a high school music teacher who made her laugh until her stomach hurt. They had a tiny apartment in Ferndale, nothing fancy, but it was theirs. Then Daniel got cancer. Stage 4 pancreatic, the kind that shows up without warning and moves fast. Helen dropped out of school, worked 3 jobs, sold everything, furniture, jewelry, her grandmother's wedding ring. It didn't matter. American healthcare doesn't ask how hard you fight, it only asks if you can pay. Daniel died holding her hand, whispering that he was sorry. The hospital sent a $340,000 bill the next day. Eviction notice came 3 days later. Within a week, Helen and Iris were on the street. For 8 months, she tried. But when you don't have an address, when you can't shower, when your daughter is crying from hunger during job interviews, the world stops seeing you as human. You become a ghost. Until the wrong person decides to see you. November 14th, 2023, 11:47 p.m. A black SUV pulled up to Helen's cardboard box. Not a cop, not a social worker. Alex Rutherford Thompson. Real estate billionaire, philanthropist, the kind of man who gets buildings named after him. He didn't toss her a 20 and keep walking. He crouched down in his $8,000 suit, looked Helen in the eyes, and asked her daughter's name. Iris, Helen whispered, her voice broken from cold. Thompson smiled. Beautiful name, he said. How would you like to give Iris a real home? A yard, a warm bed, a future? Helen stared at him. What's the catch? His eyes flickered just for a second. No catch, Helen. Just let me help. The world needs more kindness. He handed her a business card. My assistant will contact you tomorrow. We have a property, fully furnished, 3 bedrooms. You and Iris can live there. No rent for the first year. Helen should have known right then. Nobody gives that much unless they're planning to take something far more valuable back. But when your daughter is shivering so hard her teeth are chattering, you don't think. You just hope.
Before we go further, I need to tell you something. Someone told me stories like Helen's don't matter, that people don't care what happens to the desperate, that this channel would never reach 10,000 subscribers because nobody wants to hear about the poor. But I think they're wrong. I think stories like this need to be told. Because what happened to Helen isn't rare. It's a system. And it could happen to anyone. If you believe these stories deserve to be heard, if you think we should expose people like Thompson,
hit that subscribe button. Prove that we still care.
Now, back to Helen. Because what she signed that day wasn't a rental agreement. It was a trap. The house was perfect. Red brick, white shutters, a porch swing that creaked in the wind, 3 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a yard where Iris could play. Thompson's assistant handed Helen a stack of papers. "Just the standard rental agreement," she said. "Sign here, here, and here." 73 pages. Helen signed every single one without reading a word. You would have too. For 3 weeks, life was normal. Iris started pre-K at Brookside Elementary. Helen got a job at Rosie's Diner on Woodward Avenue. She bought Iris new shoes, real ones, not from a donation bin. She bought herself a toothbrush, shampoo, a winter coat. Small things most people never think about, but to Helen, they were everything. Thompson didn't call, didn't visit, didn't ask for anything. Helen started to believe that maybe, just maybe, there really were good people left in the world. That's exactly what he wanted her to think. 3 weeks and 2 days after Helen moved in, Thompson came back. Thursday evening, 6:15 p.m. He arrived with gifts, a porcelain doll for Iris that cost more than Helen used to make in a week, and a bottle of expensive wine. "Just checking in," he said, stepping inside like he still owned the place, which legally he did. They talked for an hour. He asked about Iris's school, Helen's job, whether the furnace was working, normal landlord questions. But the whole time, Helen felt this pressure, like the air was thinning. Before he left, Thompson paused at the door. "Oh, one small thing," he said, casually, too casually. "The basement. I keep some business files down there, sensitive documents. I'd appreciate it if you didn't go down there. It's locked anyway, but just to keep things clean between us." Helen nodded quickly. "Of course, no problem." He smiled, that same warm, philanthropic smile that got him on magazine covers. "I knew I could trust you, Helen. You're a good mother. Iris is lucky to have you." Then he was gone. Helen locked the door behind him, and for the first time since moving in, she felt afraid. 2 weeks later, Helen was doing laundry when her hand brushed against something wedged behind the dryer vent. A photograph. Old, faded, bent at the corners. It showed a young woman standing on the front porch of the house, the same porch Helen walked past every day. The woman had dark hair, sharp cheekbones, tired eyes. She looked exactly like Helen. Not similar, identical. Helen flipped it over. On the back, in careful handwriting, "Delilah Ross, November 2019, approved for program." Helen's hands started shaking. She showed it to Rashida, her co-worker at the diner. Rashida's eyes went wide. "Girl, that's some get-out shit. You need to leave that house, now." "And go where?" Helen asked. "Back to the street? Back to watching Iris cry herself to sleep from hunger?" Rashida didn't have an answer. Helen put the photo in a drawer. She told herself it was just a coincidence, a previous tenant who happened to look like her, nothing more. But 2 days later, Iris came home from school with a drawing, and Helen couldn't ignore it anymore.
December 3rd. Iris's teacher, Miss Kowalski, stopped Helen during pickup. "Can we talk for a moment?" That tone, the one that makes your stomach drop. She pulled out a drawing from art class. Their house, a yellow sun, some flowers, and in the bottom corner, a black door. Standing in that doorway was a tall figure with no face, just a dark, featureless shape. Above it, in Iris's wobbly handwriting, the downstair man. "Has Iris mentioned seeing anyone else in the house?" Miss Kowalski asked carefully. "No," Helen lied. "We're the only ones there." But that night, Helen asked Iris about the drawing. "Who's the man downstairs, baby?" Iris looked up from her coloring book, her face completely innocent. "The tall man," she said simply. "He comes at night." Helen's throat went dry. "What does he do?" Iris shrugged. "He looks at me through the little holes." Helen's blood turned to ice. "What holes?" "In my wall, by my bed."
That night, after Iris fell asleep, Helen searched her room. She turned off the lights and used her phone flashlight at an angle. There, 6 tiny holes in the wall, barely visible, each one drilled perfectly at eye level, all positioned around Iris's bed. Someone had been watching her daughter sleep. Helen's hands shook as she moved the dresser. Behind it, more holes, all angled toward the bed. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We need to talk about your contract. My office, 2 p.m. tomorrow. It's about Iris's future. A.R.T." Helen didn't sleep that night. She sat in Iris's room with a kitchen knife in her lap, staring at those holes, waiting to see if an eye would appear. At 3:04 a.m., it did. Blue, unblinking, and it wasn't human.
Thompson's office was on the 34th floor of the Guardian building. Floor-to-ceiling windows, sleek minimalist furniture, power in every detail. Helen sat across from him, feeling like a child called to the principal's office. "Thank you for coming," Thompson said smoothly. "I wanted to discuss something important about your housing agreement." He slid a folder across the desk. "Page 47, section 12C. Can you read it for me?" Helen's hands trembled as she opened it. The section was highlighted in yellow. "Resident acknowledges and consents that minor dependents residing in the property may be enrolled in the Thompson Foundation's Child Development and Wellness Monitoring Program. This includes, but is not limited to, behavioral observation, cognitive assessment, and participation in approved research studies. Legal guardianship may be transferred to the foundation in cases where the resident is deemed unfit or unable to provide adequate care." Helen's vision blurred. What does this mean?" Thompson leaned back. "It means, Helen, that Iris is legally enrolled in my program, and based on our observations over the past 6 weeks, we've identified some concerning patterns in your parenting." He turned a tablet toward her. Video footage. Helen at work yelling at a customer who'd grabbed her. Helen in the bathroom at home, sobbing. Helen feeding Iris cereal for dinner 3 nights in a row. Helen screaming at the walls after finding the holes. "You're struggling, Helen. Understandably, you've been through trauma. But Iris deserves stability, the best possible start in life." "I'm doing my best," Helen whispered. "I know you are, but your best isn't enough." He pulled out another document. "I'm offering you 2 options. Option 1, you voluntarily place Iris in my foundation's care. She'll attend the best schools, want for nothing. You can visit once a month." Helen's chest tightened. "And option 2? Thompson's expression hardened. "I take you to court. I present this evidence. I argue that you're an unfit mother, and I win, because I have 30 lawyers and unlimited resources." He leaned forward. "And you have nothing."
Helen didn't go home.
She drove straight back to the house while Iris was still at school, grabbed a crowbar from the garage, and smashed every lock on the basement door. The stairs went down and down and down. At the bottom, she found it. Not a lab, not a dungeon. Filing cabinets, hundreds of them, each drawer labeled with a name and a year. Helen yanked one open. Delilah Ross, 2019. Inside, photographs, medical records, psychological evaluations, and at the back, adoption papers, signed by Delilah Ross, signed by Alex R. Thompson. Delilah had given up her daughter. Helen opened another drawer. Simone Harris, 2021. Same thing. Single mother. Homeless. Moved into the house. Signed the contract. Gave up her son. Another drawer. Maria Delgado, 2020. Another. Keisha Washington, 2018. 12 files total. 12 women who looked just like Helen. 12 children removed. And at the very back, Helen found a new file. Still empty, waiting to be filled. Iris Vance, 2024. Inside was a single document, a receipt. Placement fee, $850,000. Client, anonymous. Status, pending maternal cooperation. Thompson wasn't a philanthropist. He was a dealer. He found desperate mothers, gave them hope, documented their instability, and sold their children to wealthy buyers who didn't want to wait for legal adoption.
You were never supposed to see this, Helen. Thompson's voice came from the top of the stairs. He stood there, backlit, looking almost bored. The contract you signed, Section 12C, you didn't just give me the right to observe Iris. You gave me legal guardianship if you were deemed unstable. He gestured to the broken door, the scattered files. And breaking into a basement, destroying property, making wild accusations about child trafficking, that's textbook instability, Helen. He pulled out his phone. I've already called the police. They'll be here in 5 minutes. And when they arrive, they'll see a homeless woman with documented mental health issues having a breakdown in their billionaire landlord's home. Helen's legs went weak. You planned this from the beginning. I planned for efficiency, Thompson corrected. Desperate mothers are easy to document, easy to discredit, and their children are easy to place with families who can actually provide. He descended one step. You were perfect, Helen. The dead husband, the medical debt, the homelessness, you were exactly what I needed. Helen looked at the files around her. 12 women, 12 lives destroyed, and she was about to be number 13. Helen didn't think. She grabbed the files, all of them, and ran. Up the stairs, through the kitchen, out the front door. Thompson didn't chase her. He just stood at the top of the basement stairs and smiled. Because he knew she had nowhere to go, no evidence that would hold up in court, no lawyers, no power. Helen drove to the diner, called Rashida, called legal aid, called every journalist whose number she could find. Nobody believed her. Thompson's lawyer sent her a cease and desist within an hour. The police showed up at the diner and escorted her out for trespassing and destruction of property. By the time Helen could scrape together enough money for a lawyer, she'd already missed 3 custody hearings. The judge ruled in Thompson's favor. Iris was placed in temporary foundation care, pending a full psychological evaluation of the mother.
That was 6 months ago.
Helen sees Iris once a month now. 1 hour, supervised. In a sterile room with white walls and cameras in every corner. Iris wears dresses Helen didn't buy, speaks with words Helen didn't teach her. And she doesn't look at Helen the same way anymore. She looks at the wall, the same way she used to look at the holes. And every time Thompson's name appears in the news, another donation, another award, another glowing profile, Helen sees it. In the background of the photo, another woman. Dark hair, tired eyes, holding a small child's hand, walking into that same red brick house. Her name is Simone, and she has no idea what she just signed.
You think you know what desperation looks like? But you don't. Not until you're standing in the freezing rain with a child who hasn't eaten in 2 days. Not until a man in a black SUV pulls up and offers you salvation. Not until you're holding a pen over a contract you know you should read. But you're so tired, so broken, and your daughter is so cold. Helen is standing in that rain right now, looking at Alex Rutherford Thompson. He's holding out a key. She knows what's in the basement. She knows what he'll do. But Iris is shivering, and the rain is so cold. I think she's going to sign. Wouldn't you?
Lesson 1. Read every contract, every word, every clause. Because buried in those pages might be the rights to your child. Lesson 2. Free help from the powerful always has a price. Ask why. Always ask why. Lesson 3. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it is. Lesson 4. Document everything. Your word against a billionaire's means nothing. Lesson 5. The system doesn't protect the desperate, it harvests them. Helen couldn't fight back, but maybe if enough people hear her story, the next person can.